the impetus originally was when I was much younger. This was in 2002 or 3. I was working for Floyd at Tabla, and I would always have multiple jobs. Wherever I always wanted to like be working at multiple places. So in the morning, I worked for free at the Salameria in Union Square. Mario Batali had this Salameria called Union Square.
The mole, dude. Wasn't that the mole sausage that his dad made?
Well, he made everything, but this was like, pancetta, prosciutto, guanciale, everything. This guy, Dan Latham, ran it. And so I worked there, in the mornings, just like doing whatever I could learn. And then I kept notebooks like everybody did. And I had a notebook of all the recipes from everything I was learning. And then on my day off, I would just stage at restaurants because that's what you do. You just go to learn at other places. And so I was staging at this restaurant and called Veritas, and I lost the notebook. And that was the original, like, oh my God, I need to digitize everything. So the original idea was I want to digitize all my recipes. Okay. So then, of course, as I started working at more restaurants, and then as I started having to like understand food cost and understand training, and I remember being at Cafe Gray a couple years later, and we would go to Montreal for the festival in Lumiere every year. And like essentially chefs from around the world would go and take over a kitchen. And so Gray and I would go and take over this kitchen and run a tasting menu. And they would prep a lot of the stuff ahead of time. There's some trouble getting stuff across the board and things like that, but like you would show up and then you'd work with this team there. And it really was me, because Gray would go, everyone would talk to him. So I had to go run this kitchen. So I remember like having to build very, very precise recipes, making sure to convert everything in grams, having some things in French,
right?
Video recording these things.
Really?
And I sent them CDs of, because it was very, it's like, has to be precise. Like we make this truffle soup, there's making this like blanc de veau. And I was like, but like we had a special way we did it. And so it had to be precise. And so I sent all this stuff digitally in CDs and I mailed it to them.
What?
and I was like, man, this is crazy. And things like that kept happening, and then I would run, I started my restaurants and realized like, oh my gosh, like our recipes are in Google Docs and they're in Google Sheets. And they're also, I have like, video training in these, in these places, or I'm using PowerPoints, and it was all over the place. And the only thing I've found was like, here's some accounting or inventory software.